Rotterdam, since being flattened in World War II, was rebuilt for the car. Despite the city's efforts to try and increase cycling numbers, it's still far behind Amsterdam and other Dutch cities, and can still be seen as quite a car-friendly city. On the other hand, London has seen massive growth in the cycle network and is now one of the best places to cycle in the UK. So today we'll compare one of the worst Dutch cycling cities with the UK's best, using not just bikes +1 -2 scoring system. 1 point will be awarded for every aspect that makes cycling more pleasant or safer, while 2 points will be deducted for every negative aspect. We will be comparing a route from the centre of each city to Ikea, which have a similar distance in both cities of around 9 miles, 14 kilometres, using the best and safest route available. So let's see if London can beat Rotterdam. Let's begin.
We begin here on Parliament Square, outside the House of Parliament and Westminster Underground Station. Straight away we run into the first problem, is that there's no way to turn right onto cycleway 3. This is inconvenient considering motor vehicles can turn in all directions here, and shows the problem that cycleways are hard to join, especially if they're not on the same side of the road as you. Now we're on the cycleway, I'll have to deduct points since it's not actually segregated. The extra buffer space would normally be enough, but given the high volumes of traffic with motor vehicles and cycle traffic, it's just not good enough. Also, the fact that cyclists can't turn left here is very inconvenient, since to turn left you have to cross over 3 lanes of traffic, which is uncomfortable at best and dangerous at worst. This annoys me since there's more than enough space for a protected waiting area for a 2-stage turn here. We're now on a protected cycle lane separated by curb, and this feels safe and comfortable, and cycle lanes of this standard should be rolled out everywhere. We come to a protected traffic light junction with no conflicting car movements. However, the cycling vision is not the best here, since you have to wait for oncoming cycles to come before it's your turn, meaning you wait ages at the lights. This could easily be solved by making the gap wider and having 1 traffic light on this side of the road compared to 2. This cycle lane is very wide, and the bus stop bypasses means we don't have to deal with the buses. The traffic lights in the cycle lane are a bit excessive and often stop you for no reason, since they take a long time to change and pedestrians cross whenever there are gaps. The construction work due to the tideway tunnel has been built to disrupt the cycleway as little as possible. Parking segregation has been used here. I think it only works where traffic speeds are already 30 miles per hour or less, but it's a good compromise for now. These traffic light junctions are confusing. It's not clear who is meant to give way and feel like slip roads, which is confusing. They do give a safe way to cross the busy road, which is nice. Santander cycle hire bikes can be hired for £1.65 per half hour, gives an excellent way to get around the city and gives people opportunities to cycle when they don't own or don't have access to their bikes at that period of time. The cycle lane switches sides here. I won't deduct points since it's due to much needed construction, and on the other side of the road they've continued a temporary cycle lane. Once they've completed the work, I hope they'll reopen the cycle lane, which will give a way to get to Blackfriars Bridge without having to cross the road, which will be nice. These temporary ones are excellent when put in barriers like this, and makes cycle feel just as safe as if there was a permanent curb there. This pedestrian crossing is very annoying. It keeps you at a red light for a very long time. A zebra crossing would have been much better here. These anti-terrorism barriers play an important role in keeping London safe. However, they could have been placed better so they're not blocking the whole lane. This is dangerous at peak times since this route is very busy and cyclists may crash into them. A better solution is needed. This cycle lane is very wide and protected by curb and barrier.
These barriers, while not perfect, are at least better placed. The cycle lane here is given priority over side road traffic. Notice how the pavement's at the same level as the cycle lane. This is a forgiving design, so if you accidentally ride off the cycle lane, you won't fall off. There are also excellent entry and exit points off this cycle lane, with clear priority markings. A two-stage left turn is used when there's not enough room to add a full face for bikes while still allowing them to turn in all directions. While this is not the best solution since you're only protected by paint while waiting, it does work well when turning into quieter streets, therefore I'm giving it a point. On the right, there's a delivery van parked in the cycle lane, completely legally. This is inconvenient, especially as the cycle lane often fills up with a row of cars and so you're forced into the oncoming traffic lane. The early release bike light signals allow bikes a head start in entering the junction, which allows for bikes to be better seen. On the left you can see a car parking space that's been transformed into cycle parking, turning a space from one car into a space for 8 bikes, which is a lot more efficient use of space. Up ahead we have a filter that only allows non-motor vehicles through. That created the effect that the street we're just on had very little to no motor traffic, making it very pleasant to walk and cycle down. The council around here also gave funding to local businesses to buy a cargo bike, as seen here, making deliveries greener and reducing traffic congestion. We now cycle across this square onto a one-way street with a contraflow cycle lane. This road is very quiet due to the square closing most of the through traffic. The contraflow lane also ensures no illegal parking happens, causing conflict with cyclists in the other direction. Here we get an advanced cycle box. It is the worst type of protection and is useless if you arrive when the light is green. While it's fine for quieter streets like this, the fact that it has been rolled out everywhere as a blanket protection instead of building actual infrastructure means I have to give a -2 for it. Once again, the filter here has created a lovely space for people to hang out. Here there's a car park which creates quite a bit of traffic. A bike route should not be built near car infrastructure without being segregated. The route here is also quite windy, which adds extra time onto the route, which in turn makes cycling less desirable if you have to get to your destination in a fast time. The filter allows a one-way street for cars to become two-way for cycles, which opens up many more routes and makes it faster to cycle than drive. Here we get our own traffic light instead of a toucan crossing. Separating cycles from pedestrians as much as possible is crucial to making a safer city. Here we have another bus stop bypass allowing us to skip any potentially dangerous interactions with buses. The cycle lane also has priority over side streets here. The lights here detected my bike and changed quickly, much better than uselessly waiting for no one. The lights have also changed, predicting I might make a right turn here. Since there's no conflicting movements, the lights changed, which means I don't have to wait for multiple stages of the light cycle. These stormwater gardens help for water management and also make the area more aesthetically pleasing. The cycle lane skips the traffic lights here since bikes don't need traffic lights, cars do. Here the cycle lane is allowed to go in every direction, granted that you can turn right in 2 stages, showing the great flexibility of bikes compared to the constant rules where you cannot turn left or right in a car. The cycle lane has been painted a different colour over side roads which make it more visible to car drivers. The paint has faded though. The cycle lane here changed sides of the road. This can be inconvenient, but the cycle lane does not switch sides often, so I won't take away any points for this. Here, pedestrian crossings have been done via a raised hump instead of a second set of traffic lights for bikes. This is good since pedestrians usually cross on red anyways and saves on cost when building cycle lanes. An excellent cycle crossing has been built on the left which separates pedestrians and cycle facilities. I hope they get rolled out more often since this crossing design is crucial to making a great cycle network. Here the bike lane changes for one segregation. While I hope this can be upgraded to curb at some point in the future, if this makes rolling out the cycle lanes faster, I'm all for it. I do think the ones could be placed closer to the side road junctions though, since the parts without segregation are a bit long. This junction can be a hit or miss depending on the light cycles, but you normally have to wait a very long time for the lights to change while cars are given a green wave through the junction. Here the cycle lane is very wide and cyclists feel comfortable overtaking each other. You can see here that the lanes are so safe, people of all ages can enjoy making short trips by bike. These lights take a while to change, even when there are no cars coming. They should change instantly when there are no vehicles, considering this is a side street on a major cycle route. The side streets are done nice as the cycle lane does not weave too much while still allowing small space for cars to wait in between the cycle lane and the main road. Here the cycle lane connects to a parade of shops, allowing people to cycle to places they actually want to go to. Too many cycle lanes serve places people don't want to go. Here there's a protected turn down Deptford Church Street, which has cycle lanes currently under construction. This will make many routes now available to cycling, which will make this cycle lane even more useful. The protected right turn also allows for the whole journey to be segregated and safe, since protected lanes without protected junctions does not work, and is where I think another city, Copenhagen, really falls down. Here we have to leave the cycle lane since the next section has not started construction. Luckily there's a safe alternative that we can use by going down this contraflow lane and then using quieter streets. On the Thames Walk there is a cycle lane making it clear where pedestrians may expect cycles. In the middle of this cycle route there's an area by the Cutty Sark where you may not cycle through. This is a main cycle route that you have to walk through instead of cycling. Imagine having to get out halfway through your car journey and to push your car. This is also enforced by fines. The next part that cycle lanes go through, a museum garden that's only open at certain times of day. The alternative is a small walking route that is not suitable for bikes. Imagine the M25 being closed every day before 6 AM and after 8 PM. The protected cycle lane needs to start construction as soon as possible here. That added a lot of extra time onto our journey, and just following the main road with cars would have been much faster than going by the official cycleway route. We're now back on safe, quiet streets, and since they mirror the main road, it's quick too. Here the cycle lane's painted on the floor and it's unclear where to go. I also hit my head on a tree branch. Another wide cycle lane. The cycle lane here is very bumpy and I have to ride in the centre as to not fall off. Here the main cycle lane goes into the centre of the road and goes straight, but I want to use the secondary one. This is a lot harder to get to and required me to look at a map since it's not signposted at all and requires me to share a very narrow pavement with pedestrians. It also does not use token crossings, meaning I legally have to dismount 3 times over this junction. Many people don't do this as it is highly inconvenient. The crossing here is also blocked. This cycle lane is quite narrow, but the cycle traffic here is light. Another crossing where I have to dismount. I also have to wait in the centre for a while as I cross in 2 stages. Not every cyclist can dismount easily, so when you have to do it over and over again very often, it creates a large barrier to cycling. This cycle lane gives easy access to the shops and continues into North Greenwich. So now we've arrived at the Ikea in Greenwich, let's see how London did. Yeesh. Now let's see if Rotterdam, the worst cycling city in the Netherlands, will do any better. We now begin in Rotterdam outside Rotterdam Centraal station. First of all, on the left, we can see an underground bike parking facility. This can store thousands of bikes safely and securely as it's staffed, covered from the weather, and has CCTV. You can also hire bikes here. This shows that Rotterdam is serious about making cycling a viable alternative to driving. These bollards are in much better places than the ones on Blackfriars Bridge in London and do the same job at keeping vehicles out. There are also many separated bike paths here, meaning the station is accessible by bike safely in any direction. Traffic has been diverted underground via a tunnel, meaning although we have to give way to traffic here, traffic's still very light and it's a pleasant environment outside the station. The crossing here is very large. It's not clear if I can even enter the crossing if there are people walking, although if I waited for everyone to cross, I'd be there all day. The one-way cycle path is wide enough to overtake even large cargo bikes. There's a large buffer between the road and the cycle path, with even grass and trees. This makes the experience of cycling a lot more pleasant compared to London. There There are no side roads on this street, meaning there's no interaction with cars. The lights are green even though the left turn's blocked by the tram. This would be illegal in the UK, but means the flow of cycles can continue since not many cycles will be turning left here. The warning lights at this junction turn off while there's a tram entering the crossing. The cycle lane is wide enough for emergency vehicles to use. This will reduce response time since cyclists can get out of the way much faster than cars. The cars being separated by the tram line means it's very quiet on this side of the street. The lights here turn to green as soon as the last vehicle is crossed. This is much faster than anything you'd see in London. Both stages of the crossing have been changed to green as well. Here there are roadworks. It's not clear what to do here since I was not sure if there was an alternative route on the other side of the road and there was nothing signposted. There was no separation for this diversion route and this road felt very wide. It's also not clear how to rejoin the cycle lane. This cycle lane is also quite narrow. I found the view of oncoming cyclists was obstructed by pedestrians and the massive poles. The cycle lane is very smooth and is wide enough for people to overtake slower cycles. The cycle lane has priority over this service car park. This might be seen as normal, but some of the major cycle routes in London give up priority for small service roads. The induction loop in the ground detected my bike and turned the light to green. This is much better than most cycle lanes in London that use movement sensors on the traffic light poles that won't detect you until you're right up at the stop line. Here is some parking, but unlike in London, it has a curb between it, meaning you won't be caught in the door zone. Drainage is also done on the inside of the curb, meaning you don't have to worry about avoiding drains while cycling. Even in the Netherlands you get people blocking the cycle lane. A side road junction with a continuous footpath and cycle lane. This shows that cars are guessed and makes cars slow down. There are frequent points in the cycle lane that allow you to turn left and cross over the road without having to do it at a side road junction. This cycle junction has wide forgiving curves. I find it annoying that you can't see the colour aspect of the lights from a distance and have to wait until you're right up in front of the lights to be able to see what colour they are. The cycle path goes behind the bus stop so bikes don't have to deal with buses. The path runs through a park, which is nice and has good street lighting. It's also clear where the space for bikes and the space for pedestrians is. There are many leaves on this bike path which can become dangerous and slippy if not cleared. The tram crossing is clearly marked. There's not a lot of space on the other side of the crossing to wait for traffic, which could become a problem if there's lots of bikes and a tram comes. The bike route is not near the car route, which allows us to cycle through much more pleasant places. The cycle lane is very direct and does not require us to turn that often, especially compared to London. This also means we cover the same distance a lot faster. We cross over the town ring road. This means that cars are limited to accessing the town from the outside and can't drive through the centre. This means places where bicycles and cars mix will have very low car volumes. Despite the low car volumes, there are still bidirectional separated bike lanes on both sides of the road. The hedge towards the roadside makes an otherwise bland curb very visually appealing. The cycle lane has been placed on the side of the road without any side streets, allowing you to cycle without worrying about cars emerging. The cycle network while crossing the ring road is grade segregated, removing interactions with cars. Even in the industrial estate, where you'd expect more cars, there are still separated bike paths. The bike path is well maintained and really smooth. Ikea seems to be the only store that does not have direct access to the cycle lane. I also don't understand why it says on the roundabout cyclists can go either direction around it, despite the bike path skips the roundabout altogether. I won't take any points away here, since there may be something I'm missing. We have now arrived and there's plenty of bike parking spaces right near the entrance. It is also protected from the weather. Now we've finished our route in Rotterdam, let's see how it all adds up. And that is the end of the comparison. I think we can see even the worst places to cycle in the Netherlands are better than almost anywhere in the United Kingdom. Keep in mind that this is a pure coincidence that London has a safe cycle route to Ikea, and if I wanted to go to any other place not on the limited cycle network London has, then you will have no protection for much or all of your journey. While in Rotterdam, the network of safe paths mean the score could even increase if I'd picked a different store. This contrasts to London, where the score could easily go past -50. I chose the absolute best and safest route for London in this comparison, so it's unlikely, especially if you chose the fastest route, for the scores to be much higher than they are here. The difference between how direct the routes are in the different cities show which one really cares about cycling. And Rotterdam probably scored a little bit less because of just how consistent the infrastructure was good. I'll have the cycling maps in the description if you wish to try out these routes yourself. Please like, subscribe, and don't forget to check out Not Just Bikes. I'll see you in the next video. See ya!